Hello, welcome back. I'm using my headphone microphone, and I'm gonna see if that sounds better than my, casual microphone. It just sits on my desk. So, today we're starting on Moon 3, and I have decided that I don't like reading this part down here because it's a synopsis of the entire chapter, and I don't like getting spoiled. And it feels redundant, because then you read everything that it's going to be about, and then you go and read it all over again. So, I will sometimes read those, and I will sometimes not. With that out of the way, let's begin. Moon 3, Part 1. Olive is pregnant. Oh, Starkalen. That's bad. That is really bad. You wanted to speak to me? Red Star asked as she entered the medicine den. Olive's eyes glanced at Den's entrance. The rest of her body remained still. Windfur finished reapplying the poultices to Olive's backbone. As he reinforced the cast of branches and vines around her back, Olive winced as he pulled one of the ropes. Sorry, Windfur said in her gritted teeth. He quietly offered Olive a single poppy seed, which the Molly took without complaint. Red Star didn't know what to make of the stranger in her camp yet. Olive became conscious the next day after they found her, and ever since then, she was unusually calm. She did not panic at the unfamiliar smells surrounding her, nor did she ask about her caste. She only looked around pensively, before hissing in pain when she tried to move. Olive had agreed to stay with them, although she didn't seem too happy with the idea. Red Star couldn't blame her. She likely lived a solitary life, and didn't expect to become surrounded by clanmates after a sudden tragic accident. In the corner of Red Star's mind, she couldn't help but think that maybe, once Olive recovered, it would be in her best interest to run far away from ForestClan. Outsiders had joined them before, but many of them left when they had heard of the things lurking in the woods. After a quiet few moments, Olive finally spoke. I'd like to speak to you in private. Red Star shot a glance at Windfur and gestured with her head for him to leave. Windfur merely nodded and shuffled past a curtain of long fern leaves that shielded the den. Red Star and Olive were left to the silence of the hollow log that contained them. Red Star padded up towards Olive and sat in front of her, meeting her green eyes. What's on your mind? She asked. Olive paused for a moment, her eyes flickering with focus. She stared at the wall, as though glaring at a bug that must have crawled through. She remained quiet for long enough that Red Star had the time to pick up on the sounds of her clanmates in camp. Shiverkit and Morningkit were squealing over their attempts to keep a feather in the air as long as possible, and she could hear Talonpaw groan over being asked to replace the moss from the warriors' nests. Red Star was so entranced in the sounds of the camp that she was caught off guard when Olive heaved a long sigh and said very bluntly, I'm pregnant. Red Star's fur bristled and her jaw dropped. Olive could have told her anything else and she wouldn't have had an answer, but this? That's really bad, she thought. Olive seemed to read Red Star's mind as she looked at her with a clouded expression. I feared this would be the case. How? When? Red Star blurted. It was before you found me. I suspected that I was likely to be pregnant again. Red Star's blood ran cold. Olive continued, avoiding Red Star's gaze. I feared they would be taken away, like the last time. That's why I ran from the cabins. Red Star swallowed a bile that rose in her throat. She felt an immense feeling of dread. Not only was Olive in a precarious position with her back still broken, but Red Star did not know how to tell Olive that the woods were more dangerous than the two-leg cabins. If she had known, Olive would have stayed and allowed her kits to at least survive, even if she never got to see them again. Why? Why in StarClan did she come to these woods? Could they bring her back to a two-leg nest? Does Windfur know about this? Of course he does. He's the one who confirmed it to me. Has he told you what your options are, given your situation? Yes. I am more than likely to survive carrying the term. What? Red Star bristled. Surely not. Winfer stated that the only herb capable of ending a pregnancy both flowers closer to fall and is also highly poisonous, even in small doses. Given my injury is usually fatal, he says he is more likely to give me a safe labor than a safe abortion. Red Star's blood boiled. No, surely not. This couldn't be the only option. She would not put any Molly through this, especially not in these woods. It'd be so needlessly painful and cruel. Surely there was something they could do. Olive had to know of the consequences of being a mother in these woods. Olive, Red Star started, her voice shaking. There's something you need to know. Olive, still unmoving, took her eyes off the wall to stare at the leader. Red Star continued. I don't know what Winfer has told you, but you mustn't give birth in these woods in your condition. Red Star fought to suppress the cold memories of harrowing, twisted vines erupting from the ground and circling the nursery, wet and crackling. Every single time warriors would attack them, claws outstretched, their pelts blurring in the fray as they blocked the nursery with their bodies. Every time the woods would take their due, whether it was a kit or a warrior. The woods, there. Red Star took out a shaky breath. There's something out there in the woods. Our clan has worked tirelessly to suppress it, after failing to leave this land. But there's one thing we cannot do, no matter how hard we try, is stop kids from being taken. Red Star met Olive's gaze intensely for a moment. She was confused. How did you know? The she-cat's eyes were distant. It was in that moment that Red Star noticed the bags under her eyes, and the graying hairs on her muzzle. Olive? Sorrow poured itself into Olive's empty eyes. I never said two legs were the ones that took my litter. I never went to the road to run from them. Her voice was hollow. Understanding flooded through ForestClan's leader. Red Star could only think of the reason why a cat would stand so close to the Thunder Path, especially one not often traveled by monsters, and then to be explicitly injured by one. It was to die, and I wish it worked. Olive's voice was in a cracked sob. They'll just be taken again. Gods, I wish it worked. I can't see my kids die again. Not again. I can't. The calico's Molly rested her head on Olive's, purring deeply with sympathy. She allowed Olive to grieve. She didn't know what to say. What could she say? Red Star knew that loners and rogues who gave birth in the woods were at risk of being taken by it. But for it to happen to a barn cat? She thought the two legs were safe. Many cats too traumatized by ForestClan's history often retired to the two legs den far off their territory. Like Winfer's father, Fern Creek. She believed at least her old clanmates would still be alive there. Now she wasn't so sure. In any scenario, this would have driven her to despair, but instead she felt angry. She dug her claws into the floor of the medicine den, and she suppressed the growl in her throat. Never again, she promised. Never again would a clanmate suffer under her. I know this is a cold comfort. It doesn't change how you must be feeling right now. But I am happy that you're here. This does not remove your pain, or change how terrifying this must be. But at least, for a while, I am happy you're here. Olive suppressed her shaking for long enough to whisper a quiet, "Thank you." Red Star didn't know if the Molly was simply being polite, or if she genuinely meant it. But she didn't care. Right now, Red Star wanted to help her. She would have a long talk with Winfer later. Now I think these are the chapters where I can read this right here. I mean, it's just like a copy of like what's up in the picture, so I think that's safe. What do you mean you can't give Olive pennyroyal? Red Star, I don't have pennyroyal. It doesn't bloom until late Greenleaf. Our stores were destroyed last year. Do you think I want this? Red Star and Winfer get into a heated argument over Olive's care. Neither leave the conversation happy about the outcome. Winfer buries himself in his work, rarely socializing with the others in the next few days. Barleywave, can we ask who's the other parent? Icicle? You and I found Shiverkit abandoned in the woods. I have to assume this is also a loner's runt. Poor thing. Barleywave brings a kit back to camp. Warbler kit. Red Star covers for him on something minor. Barleywave blinks slowly at her and thinks. Shiverkit is happy to have a new playmate. Morning Kit thinks about how small Warbler Kit is. Little baby. I'm okay, but I'm worried about the hungry eye. The what? Yeah, the big eye in the sky. I haven't seen it lately, so maybe it's not mad anymore? That's good! Talonpaw asks Shiverkit how she's doing, and gets uncomfortable by her answer. He decides to tell Winfer about it, just because of how strange it was. Hey, you want to play Whack-A-Badger? I'll hide behind these rocks, and you gotta whack me before I get ya. Ooh, that sounds fun. Can I help Whack-A-Badger? Yeah! Hope Chase no longer has a running nose. She notices Morning Kit sulking around camp, and tries to cheer her up with a new game. Shiverkit is interested too, and offers to help Morning Kit. Warbler Kit watches with wide-eyed interest. How's the clan? Is Red Star? She fed the woods, and band apprentice trials, just like she promised. You could still come back, you know. Winfer secretly meets with a kitty pet at the border, his father and former clanmate, Fern Creek. He now goes by Lucifer, by the groundkeepers at the two-leg Greenleaf camps. While Winfer tries to beckon him home, Lucifer declines. The weight of death is too much for him. Winfer understands. Icicle Pool shows Talonpaw what their greatest foes are capable of. Nothing is safe from nature's mockery and the woodcrawlers, not even the two-legs. Icicle Pool was livid. Ugh, Talonpaw, please just run from it next time. But I was stronger than it. Ow! Talonpaw hissed as Winfer applied a poultice to his injury. A fox had barely managed to nick his shoulder, but otherwise, Talonpaw was fine. The foxes and badgers in the woods are not normal. You should have been seriously hurt there. I don't understand how you aren't. Icicle Pool snapped back. The medicine den fell quiet for a few moments. Olive was sleeping, and Woodfur wasn't one to say much, unless he was telling stories to Kits or repeating a rhyme to himself. Winfer wrapped some cobweb around Talonpaw's wound. What do you mean they're not normal? Talonpaw finally asked. Winfer paused, then he turned back to look at Icicle Pool. The two cats met each other's eyes, and a text message was given. Winfer's tail twitched. Can you two grab some conifer roots on the way home? If you could teach him how to peel the root back and bring it to Cloud Thunder to boil it, that'd be nice. I need to make some rope. Icicle Pool raised an eyebrow. I thought Hope Chase weaved some rope with burlish leaves last moon. Those are good for den building, less for securing braces, he said, glancing at Olive sleeping in the back of the den. I see. Will do, Icicle Pool sighed, then beckoned to Talonpaw. Come, it's time. What is? Talonpaw asked. To teach you about wood crawlers. Sunlight had already passed by the time Ice brought Talonpaw to the edges of their territory. The further from the camp he was, the more unfamiliar scents invaded his senses. It took everything in him to keep his fur lying flat. Icicle Pool walked with purpose through the weaving branches and unmarked trails. Talonpaw couldn't smell any recent markers where they were going, but he couldn't pick up the scent of any other cats either. Icicle Pool, where are we going? A place that ForestClan doesn't walk, and for good reason. Talonpaw's bright blue eyes widened. Then why are we going there? He asked warily. To show you the true capabilities of our enemies, and why we avoid fighting them if we can. Icicle Pool came to a sudden stop, then raised her tail in warning. We're approaching now. Stay quiet. Talonpaw froze, then suppressed a retch of disgust as a foul smell invaded his nostrils. It was an amalgamation of crow food, wet earth, and blood. He hissed. What is that? He whispered aggressively. Icicle Pool didn't answer. Instead, she brought her tail to her mouth, indicating him to stay quiet. Stay here, she hissed. Talonpaw obeyed, his fur bristling and his ears perked. The deputy dropped down into a stalking crouch and padded up to the edge of a fallen tree that blocked their path ahead. She peered over it slowly, ready to hide in case she saw something she shouldn't. Her heart thumped in her chest as she saw the old abandoned two-leg nest, its walls in standing and its windows still intact. It was like nothing had changed in the 2 years that she and Red Star had originally found it. The windows were foggier as the seasons took their toll on the cleanliness of the building. But that was all. She narrowed her eyes in an attempt to see if the creatures that stalked its halls were still there. Then, she saw it. A two-leg hobbled in front of one of the large windows. It froze unnaturally in place, staring at a wall within the building. Its arms pulled outward and down, like it was being shackled by the earth below. Icicle Pool did not see the furless flesh that the two-leg normally had. Roots now engulfed it entirely. The fur on her neck stood on end. No matter how many times she saw this, she was never used to it. She wordlessly beckoned Talonpaw to approach her. The apprentice swallowed anxiously, then carefully crawled up beside Icicle Pool. Lift your head up, keep your voice down, and do not make any sudden movements. Look inside the nest. Talonpaw did as Icicle Pool instructed, and his eyes widened in terror as he saw the two-leg-like creature within. He could feel his heart bursting from his chest. "What is that?" "That," she whispered, "is what wood crawlers are capable of." The two cats fell silent as they both saw another two-leg-like creature shuffle near another one of the windows, in the same arm-extended position. This one's mouth was still intact, its lips and jaw moving in unnaturally wide shapes, as though constantly trying to yowl. Talonpaw's fur bristled. He'd heard about two legs from Windfur and Barleywave stories, but he had never saw one before. He imagined them to be alien, bulky creatures with advanced tools and powerful abilities to manipulate any terrain they came across. Just like cats, they could be kind and welcoming, or extremely hostile. But no matter what, they were everywhere. Two-legs have existed for as long as cats have, and while kitty pets have learned to live alongside them at the cost of their freedom and ability to carry or sire kits, Talonpaw didn't necessarily blame the kitty pets. He just wouldn't ever want that for himself. But Barleywave once told him that two-legs would outlive the oldest cat 4 times over. Talonpaw assumed that two-legs were so strong that nothing could ever stop them. At least, if cats couldn't defeat the wood crawlers, two-legs could. He was wrong. Wood crawlers? Kill two-legs? He uttered. They do more than that, Talonpaw, she said gravely. They infect and change the shape of any living thing. Any predator has the chance of being injured by one and corrupted by its roots. Most animals will move unnaturally or have roots and growths where they shouldn't, but will still move like an animal. This is why you shouldn't fight foxes or badgers, even if you believe you can defeat them. Talonpaw couldn't take his eyes off the unnatural movement of the infected two-legs. But this infection is different. Two-legs and cats are different from other predators. What you see in that nest is what happens when wood crawlers have taken complete control over someone's body. We call these fakes, and they look and sound like their original species, but they're overwhelmed by roots. Their entire purpose is to lure others towards them, to be infected by more wood crawlers. Icicle Pool placed a paw on his shoulder, and the two crouched behind the fallen log outside of the nest. Talonpaw tensed, but Icicle Pool brushed her tail over her apprentice's back, forcing his fur to fall flat. Talonpaw, listen closely. What I'm about to tell you now is very important. Talonpaw gave an impenetrable nod. Cats will die in your lifetime. We will do everything in our power to prevent it, but cats will still die. Whether they be a part of ForestClan or an unfortunate wanderer, if they vanish at nightfall and do not reappear in the morning, they are dead. Which means... Icicle Pool's eyes hardened, and her voice became grave. If you hear their voice calling for help, leave the area immediately. That's not them. Do not move towards the sound. If you hear them, they have already heard you. Go to camp and alert us to the presence. Under no circumstances do you follow their voice. Do you understand?" His mouth agape, and with a new fear deeply ingrained within him, he nodded. Out. He wanted out. Now. Can we go? He mewed. He felt like a kit in the nursery again. To his relief, Ice Cool Pool nodded. Yes. Quietly now, and when we pass by the large oak, we'll be far enough away to take a breather. And please, do stop and rest. Find your footing, feel your feelings, and ask your questions. We'll collect some conifer roots, like Winifred asked. All right. Stop there. See you next time.